Audio Jungle.
What's up, guys? Mike Penta here with the Mind Gym Podcast, and today I have my guest, Ray Fleeser from Ocean State CrossFit on Ocean State Athletics. You change it yet?
Negative. We're actually Ironclad Fitness, LLC, but still Ocean State CrossFit.
Ocean State CrossFit. So I want to welcome my guest, Ray. He just got off from bringing his team to the CrossFit Games with a spectacular finish for a team that just went there for the first time. So we want to welcome Ray. We're going to talk to him a little bit about his journey, starting with in CrossFit only a few years ago, and then becoming a head coach, and then buying a gym, and then putting a team together to make it to the CrossFit Games. So we're talking about a kid that's technically not an OG, throwing down and putting a team together that I think probably if they have another team this year, I mean, even though the standards changed, I think they could be top 10 on the podium. I mean, the team is that strong, and it's made up of some phenomenal athletes. So, Ray, welcome. I'm pretty excited.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to finally get you on the show. I had a couple of your athletes on the show, but, to get you down from Rhode Island, and I'm pretty excited that you came down, and I appreciate this. So, yeah, talk to us a little bit about, what got you into CrossFit? Like, because you were an athlete your whole life.
Yes.
Just like everybody else that I have talked to and had on the show. I mean, you have an athletic background. So, like, talk to me about that. What was your high school and college background?
So, growing up, a little bit of everything. Definitely tried everything. My parents were very supportive of me trying everything.
Yep.
And then in high school, focused mainly on football and training all year round for football. Looking back on it, I wish I had done some other things in the winter, maybe basketball. But I was one of those guys that thought football was an all year round job. So I played football in the fall, and then I worked out all year round, getting ready for that. That's how I got into weightlifting. Started that in about 8th grade, and spent my afternoons. If I wasn't at football practice, it was at the local YMCA, which was right down the hill from my high school. So just get out of school, go to the YMCA, spend the afternoon learning how to lift weights.
So was that a big thing for you? Did you start lifting at a young age, like when you got into high school?
Yeah, so I started lifting or exercising at the YMCA, and they were free weights there, but it wasn't so much athletic development, curls, bench, things like that. And then I got a new coach my senior year of high school, Steve Spaziano, and he was a really well-respected football coach around Rhode Island, and he knew that the team was just not working out the way they needed to. So he linked us up and got us a deal at a gym in Coventry called Powerhouse at the time.
Yep.
And that was when we started doing athletic lifts. That's when I started deadlifting, cleaning, pressing. And that's where I got my foundation for the functional or core lifts getting into college.
Yeah. See, I that was one thing with me is when I played high school, I was just, I guess, I hate to say it, but I was pretty naturally gifted when it came to playing football. And I think that went against me for trying to be sure. I was 200 in my senior year of high school. I was 230 pounds. I ran around a 4.6 or under a 4.6 40. I was a running back.
It's insane.
Yeah, it was insane for someone that's only 5'8", 235 pounds. I mean, I flew. I think I clocked in. When I clocked in, it was like 4.6, or even a little bit under. But I was like fast, and so for me, it was just I was big and fast, and I wasn't like strong. I mean, weightlifting strong. I was just strong. Yeah. So I think that went against me. I mean, I didn't start lifting, really getting into it until I started playing at Sacred Heart and getting into learning more about it. I had a great strength coach called his name was Gary Rio. This guy was awesome. Big handlebar mustache, old school guy. So he was just kind of got me into working out, and I started to enjoy it then. So yeah, I mean,
we were lifting weights. So we were lifting weights. It was actually the bigger, faster, stronger program. Yeah, is what they got us on. So it was a bench and squat on Mondays, tower bench, box squat on Fridays, clean and deadlift on Wednesdays, and then accessory work in between. So there was no cardio. It was not CrossFit in that sense. but it was the first time I was getting a bar and moving fast, and the instruction was very limited. We didn't really have coaching. We just had a demo video of jump and catch the bar. That's how I learned how to clean.
Yeah. I didn't even start. I didn't even really start cleaning until like my junior year of college. It's crazy. Well, now, and I mean the precision that I have now.
It's fortunate for people who come in now and get coaching. The first 5 years I ever did the stuff, I had no coaching. Literally jump and catch. This was before YouTube standards videos were out. You didn't look up online how to do a power clean and have world-renowned athletes from around the world showing you. That didn't exist. You just saw the biggest guy at the gym, how he did it, and tried your best to imitate him.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my first competition in CrossFit. Me and Aaron Meredith, we did a competition together. I mean, Raw never really worked at it cleaning. We both cleaned like 255 and clean and jerk 255. I have the video of it still. It is so. I think it's so atrocious. Like I said, I just was a strong
kid. But at the time, you were the man.
The man. Tell you what, the biggest lift at that competition, and we're talking CrossFit Milford was there, CrossFit Shoreline was there, Albany CrossFit at the time when they were big was there. It was at Albany CrossFit, and there was a lot of like big time competitors there. Maliola was kind of running the event, and the biggest lift was 275, and people went ape shit.
Yeah,
and it was Dave Plumey, and I'll never forget it. And me and Aaron had just started CrossFit, and we were just so raw, and we just like people were like, holy shit, like these guys are like, this is a big lift, and I don't think it's a big deal because I still don't really understand it that much. And like people are going absolute ape shit over 275. I mean, that's how much it's gone. I mean, we got people hitting 400-pound power clean and jerks now. Yeah. And a 350 is almost guaranteed if you're a regionals or games athlete. Yeah. So to see the development in that short period of time is insane.
It is. It's awesome. It's awesome to see it develop. Well, that was like 2006. I graduated high school, and I had all through high school I had planned on playing college football, which is why I was working out so hard.
Yeah.
And then my senior year, I hurt my knee right after the season in the winter, doing something stupid, dancing at my little cousin's bat mitzvah. Always something stupid, right? 10 years of football, no injuries. Smashed my knee, and basically the coaches say, well, you can walk on. Yeah. So, and we'll deal with,
where'd you go?
Make the team. So I was interested in a few schools, ended up going to URI.
Yep.
Full intentions of going to URI, fixing my knee and walking onto the team. Got to URI, and all my life I wanted to play college football. Got to URI, which, good year for them is like 2-9. Sorry, guys. And I was sitting next to the quarterback the first week of class. And I said to a girl next to me, I'm like, is that Derek Cassidy? And she said, who's that? And I go, our quarterback. She goes, who cares? Our team sucks. And it was like finding out Santa Claus wasn't real. I was like, wait a minute. I'm at college and nobody cares about the college football players. Yeah. This is not worth waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and killing yourself for a losing record where you walk into class and people kind of mock you, let alone respect you. And I, obviously you don't play sports for other people, but to put in that kind of work and that kind of sacrifice to not do well in an unsuccessful program, I didn't really think that was for me. So I didn't do anything freshman year. And then second semester freshman year, I saw a bunch of guys in the weight room wearing rugby shirts. I knew some people that played rugby. So I went out for the rugby team and loved it, took to it, met a bunch of awesome guys, and they had URI had a really good rugby team. We ended up taking a couple of division titles in the times I was there.
And you're still playing rugby, aren't you?
Yeah. So I've been playing rugby ever since 2006. So it was the spring. It was 2007. So I've been playing since then. So I was playing a lot of rugby, doing a lot of fitness, and again, just the bigger, faster, stronger. The foundations I had learned growing up, I was still doing them. But rugby requires a lot of running. Unlike football, you can't get subbed out. It's more like soccer conditioning, but with the contact of football.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of running and a lot of cardio. And I ended up getting this coach, Nate Godfrey, who would pull these workouts from CrossFit.com. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that they kicked the hell out of me. So we would do them on the rugby field. He'd bring kettlebells down or slosh pipes down or something down there. And we would do, running and burpees and sit-ups. And that was the first time I had exercise ever mimicked the feeling of a game. Yeah. No matter what you ever did with cleans, it didn't feel like football. No matter what you ever did with fitness, it never felt like the actual game, except doing CrossFit workouts legitimately felt like a rugby match. And I remember I had been working out at this point for years and years and years. The first one I ever did was Grace, and I had a 260-pound clean. Like you said, it was a jump and catch the bar in your chest. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got 260 on my chest and put it overhead. And I worked out. When they said we were going to do Grace, they said, okay, 135 on the bar.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's like half my max. What do you mean 135? He goes, you're going to do it 30 times as fast as you can. And I did it in 2.5 minutes. Not a bad time for anybody, let alone, never doing it before. But I was on the ground for about 45 minutes. My body was shaking. I was like convulsed. I was so confused as to how I got my ass kicked by 50% of my one rep in 2.5 minutes. It made me feel like I knew nothing about fitness. I was nothing. And it was amazing to me. And I was hooked. I know that would probably deter most people. Yeah. But the moment that happened, I'm like, what is this?
See, that was, I think, the big thing about CrossFit in the beginning. Like, not its inception, but as it started to pick up a little bit of ground, there was mostly athletes. So, you hear a lot of the older stories. Like, I did Fran the first time, I kicked my ass, I was hooked. I mean, you can't really do that now. I think what the member, the type of member that walks in the gym, you're still getting athletes, but I think it's like 1 to 5 at that point.
Yeah, that's probably not a good marketing tool. If I had somebody come into the gym and say, hey, I'm here to check this place out, I wouldn't want them to feel the way I felt that first day.
Yeah, but the thing is that's in the beginning, that was the awesome feeling, like that hooked everybody because, like you said, I mean, a lot of athletes, a lot of military, a lot of police and fire, that's what was coming into CrossFit in the beginning. And that ass kicking feeling was just like, holy shit. And most of them were athletes. Like, I haven't felt that in a long time.
Yeah.
And that was the hook. That's how I got hooked. Me and Aaron Meredith did our first CrossFit workout ever in Planet Fitness, dude. It was literally Tabata. We did Tabata air squats, Tabata push-ups, Tabata pull-ups, Tabata sit-ups. I think when I got to the push-ups, or the last thing we did, I was literally doing one every 20 seconds and just laying in sweat on the floor. Like, just, I think I wasn't even doing push-ups. I think I was just humping the floor and just like looking at Aaron and be like, what's going on, man? Like, why can't we do push-ups for 20 seconds? Couldn't even do them.
So when Nate Godfrey actually came around, and my buddy Nick Martirosyan, Nick was the captain of URI Rugby at the time, and Nate was the coach. When they got me into CrossFit, it was kind of my second half of college. I did my first half of college. Then I went into the Air National Guard. So I had to do a little bit of active duty time for boot camp and training. And then I came back to college. So I did 2 years of college. And then I went with the military it was about 3 semesters I had to be off. And then I came back. And that's when it was CrossFit. So I did that first Grace workout. Again, 2 years of college rugby and the exercise that went along with it, 10 years of football and the exercise that went along with high school football, and military. I'd been to boot camp, Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, did that, the 5 a.m., might have been 4 a.m., I forget, running, half-hour running. Boot camp fitness is not particularly tough, but one way or another, I'd been uncomfortable in a lot of different scenarios, and 2.5 minutes with 50% of my one rep kicked my ass. So I was hooked on it. And I was really hooked on, once I started looking into it, you have to get through the initial hate, which there isn't much these days. I think people have kind of realized that. But 2008, 2009, when you would look up and Google anything about CrossFit, you'd have to really sift through all the people hating on it. I feel like there was almost more hate content than there was real content.
Yeah.
But when you got to it and you looked at these people, even the games back in the day, they're nothing to what they are now. They're less than what's being done at today's regionals. But you realize that in order to row what he just rowed, in order to clean and jerk snatch what he just lifted, in order to do the muscle ups matched with it, in order to run what they run, you have to be extremely, extremely, extremely dedicated. All the hate that was saying, oh, these people don't know what form is, or they don't know what technique is. I don't know anybody that's harder and more disciplined in the realm of fitness than a competitive CrossFit athlete. And my entire life's experience, various gyms, various teams, college athletes, in the military, tons of people from my unit were athletes either in college or in high school. I had never seen people dedicate time the way they dedicate it in CrossFit. I'm going to spend 2 hours this morning working on my Olympic weightlifting movements. Then I'm going to take a couple of hours off, go back to work. Some people do this balancing a job. Hydrate, fuel up, come back in, hit my endurance, come back a couple hours later, hit my mobility work. Like, just the sheer amount of time and effort to master all the different components that CrossFit requires. It intrigues me. It's addicting. You for every one thing you get good at, 5 other things show up that you need to work on. And it's just this never ending checklist of improving this. And again, so it started with that Fran workout. And then I was just hooked, looking up things, trying to get better, looking up what people could do, trying to imitate them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I always say, it's amazes me when I see someone make it, because I was on the cusp for a couple years in a row. You know, I finished, like I said, the first year they did the Open, I finished 61st out of 60. The year after that, I finished like 68th or 70th out of 60. And I knew how much time I was putting in, and like literally 6 hours a day, to the point where I was a terrible business owner because of it. You know, me and Matt, and we would bump heads a little bit because like I was so focused on training at that point, because that's all I wanted to do was make it to regionals. And I'm just like, when people were making, I'm like, man, if I'm putting in this much work, and I'm a pretty good athlete just by nature, if I'm putting in this much work with my nutrition, working out, fixing things, watching videos, because we didn't have coaches then, so constantly just trying to fix my form, videoing myself. And I mean, that was the thing. Like, people don't realize it's like being a professional athlete trying to watch game film. You know, you got a lot of these kids and a lot of these athletes filming themselves, and then putting it side by side next to and trying to analyze how to fix things. It's not just the fitness and the workout part of it. It's a lot. You know, I watch these guys now 10 hours, 10 hours just dedicated every day trying to be a better athlete to make it. So for me, when I used to see them make it, I was like, man, these guys are, I mean, I'm putting in 6 hours. These guys got to be putting a ton of time in, and they're working full time, because back then nobody made money doing CrossFit.
Still don't.
Still nobody somebody makes money, but it's not many still. So, but at that point, like, there was no money, there was no sponsorships, there was no Reebok, there was no fucking sneakers, there was no nothing. It was everyone wear Innovates. I think that was the biggest sneaker back then, and Chuck Taylor still, you know, when I was at that level. So it's crazy, and I love watching the dedication. But then you started doing CrossFit inside a facility. You started coaching at Ocean State CrossFit. At the time, it was Ocean State CrossFit.
So negative. So, like I said, Nate Godfrey and Nick Martiroshian got me into it when I was at URI. Yeah. And I was studying kinesiology. All my life, I wanted to have a career in fitness. I went into college, declared kinesiology. And so that's exercise science and the study of human body movement. And the college I ended up applying to within that on second year was physical education. So you basically like a personal trainer / teacher. Yeah. Come to find out that they were just like breeding me to be a CrossFit coach, but I'm an adult gym teacher. But so I was very close actually to graduating, and money was just tight, and I was pulling out loans, and I got some certifications. I got my personal trainer certification through National Academy of Sports Medicine, and I went and took the CrossFit L1, and I started coaching people under Nate and Sean at CrossFit 401.
Oh, okay.
And I was doing some coaching there, and then I was training a few other people. The way a lot of beginner trainers do it. I was a member at Gold, so I had a few people that went to Gold. They'd pay me in the parking lot because they couldn't do it in front of their trainers, and I looked like their gym buddy, even though I was benching with a girl who's got 65 pounds on the bar. I would just work in to make it look like we were gym buddies, and I wasn't her trainer.
And you put together programs that were familiar to you. You know what I mean? And that's everybody. And this is what I talk about with personal trainers when they're first starting off. Do what you're good at, or like, don't try to like vary away from that in the beginning, because you're going to hurt somebody. So if you know something, and to me, if someone works hard, they're going to see results. So that's the whole podcast. That's why I do this podcast, to get people to understand, if you just put in the work, you could be successful with 6 feet of space in your living room doing fucking burpees every day. Like, if you're going to put in the work, the outcome is going to be a result. So, that's what I tell people in the beginning. A lot of people come to me about being a personal trainer in this area, and the first thing I say to them, stick to what you know. And I always tell them, get your NASM certification. I think it's one of the best certifications out there.
It took all the content I learned in college
and condensed it down
without all the fluff.
Absolutely.
The part of anatomy you need, the part of kinesiology you need, the part of
college is just it's a overpriced.
Well, so that was my thing. So I got my certifications, and I started training people, and I started working in this field, and I loved college. All right, and I love URI, but when you're paying for it, it's stressful. And I started working, and I'm like, wait a minute. If I went and keep taking out loans and finish this degree, I'm not necessarily, because I kind of started thinking I didn't want to be a teacher. I kind of started getting second thoughts about being a teacher and just wanting to do the exercise instruction. And I'm like, if I continue to take on this debt, I'm not gonna get paid more. I'm not gonna get a raise. Raises in rates as a personal trainer are based on your abilities as a personal trainer. You can have all the pedigrees in the world. If you suck at your job and you don't bring people results, or people think you're a weirdo, you're not gonna make money. So I started. I went to initially what I thought would be taking a semester off, and I'm like, let me see what I can do if I dedicate myself to fitness. So I had started a fraternity at URI. I'm a founding father of Pi Kappa Alpha on campus, and we had a big social presence there. So I was friends with girls in a lot of the sororities. So I was doing a lot of personal training at several different gyms. I went to a couple of different gyms with clients and would do personal training there. Then I had a beach boot camp in Narragansett, just $5 a head, come through. And then I went around to these sororities, and I used the girls I had known there to get me time at their chapter meetings. And I said, hey, if I came and did a program here 3 days a week, $5 a girl, would you be interested? Because all the sororities had a big room in their house. So 3 days a week, I went house to house to house training groups of sorority girls. So that my fitness, that was a very lucrative 3 hours, and
you're gonna make. You tell you what, you just made a complete new business model for a lot of people listening to this show right now that are in college.
It was a good move. Everybody wants to be fit. Nobody wants to leave the house. They have, every sorority has a common room where they have their chapter meetings. So I just show up with some kettlebells, a sound system, and we had a good time. So that went on for a semester. And then that summer, I was getting tattoo work on my back, and I was just messing around on the computer. And I had a website going at the time where I was just doing demo videos, not of me necessarily.
Yeah.
You want to learn how to shoot a basketball? Here's a basketball coach showing you. You want to learn how to. So I was like a melting pot of activity. And I messaged a couple of CrossFits to see if that one might be me.
Me? Is it my wife? Yeah, screw it. Sorry. Wow, don't watch this episode.
I messaged a couple of CrossFit owners. You're saying, hey, I'm Ray Fleeser. I do personal training all over the place down in Narragansett. If anybody wants to collaborate, make some videos, get on my website, free publicity for you, free content for me. Let's collaborate. I had no idea. But Aaron Meredith had just lost one of his coaches, Will Huntington.
Yep.
He had quit to move on. And
he'd quit and came to here.
Yep. And small world.
Small world.
And Aaron was looking for a head coach. I had no idea. So Aaron hits me up and he's like, hey, you want to come by, get a workout in? I said, yeah. I thought I was just going to work out, and
Aaron can hook you quick, man.
That's it. And maybe
Aaron's he's got that gift of just like being able to hook you in.
Yeah, he's got it. Well, either way, so he said come in for a workout. So I went there. We shot the shit for a little bit. We had a workout. And then afterwards, he was like, can you come back tomorrow and work out? And I was like, well, this was a really good workout. Your people seem pretty cool. Yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. And I came back the next day, and his partner was there. And we worked out again. And his partner, Mike
Burley,
saw me throw down. Yeah. And he's like, so what's your deal? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's my deal? I told you in the email. I train in sororities. I train on the beach. I train at several different gyms. I'm just kind of figuring out my way. And he goes, do you want to work here full time? And I'm like, dude, I got a lot of stuff going on over there. And he's like, well, what if we pay you this, and if you do any personal training, you can keep it. And I was like, when do you want me to start, man? And he's like,
that's what I do. Even with my manager here, same thing is like, you try to, the gyms don't make a shit ton of money. We make good money, but you still try to make it affordable, but beneficial for someone who's working full time. Like that's what we do. I do with my manager. Like she's a massage therapist. There you go. You have a free access to all these members, and I won't even charge you for doing massages, so you can make a little bit extra money. So
at this time, I had been, in addition to getting into the fitness, I was playing the highest level of rugby in the United States. At the time, it was called D1. It's actually still called D1, but there's been other names, Premier, Super League. I was playing D1 for Boston, which I was living in Narragansett. The reason being, Boston was one of the best teams in the country. So I traveled, playing rugby for Boston was about 30 hours a week of commitment. It was about 2.5 hours to practice each way, 2-hour practice there, a couple days a week. And then our games were somewhere in the Northeast, and then in the spring we'd travel. So I was playing a lot of rugby, and we went 5th in the country that year. That was a really amazing experience. But that summer, right before I messaged Aaron, I was running around personal training because I had made selection for USA Maccabiah team, international rugby team that was playing at a World Games in Israel. So there was 25 guys from the U.S. that got to dress. My coach, Sean Littman, he's in the World Rugby Hall of Fame, played in 2 World Cups. I mean, it was a really amazing team. Olympian Zach Test was on the team. He actually didn't get to play because he broke his finger. But I mean, the team was amazing. So I was really focused on going to that. So not only did Aaron offer me a job that I already had a lot of stuff going on, but I was about to leave the country for a month to go play rugby. And he's like, all right, I'll cover the classes while you're gone. Come back in a month and the job will still be here. I'm like, you're going to pay me what I'm making to run around like a chicken with my head cut off in Narragansett, 3 gyms, a beach, and sororities. You're going to pay me all that and hold the job for a month?
Yeah.
Let's go. So I started the next day. I worked until I went to Israel. I went to Israel for the month. Then I came back, and that's when I was really started to coach at Ocean State. That was about 4.5 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's kind of like fast track now.
Sure.
So Aaron and Matt, they decided to sell the gym.
Yep.
So you bought the gym.
Well, I'd always wanted to, like I said, the career in fitness, and it's kind of a normal track. I think it's pretty expected that head coaches eventually, want to do their own thing, make it their own, have their own brand on it, have their own name on it, things like that. And Aaron had given me the opportunity of a lifetime. Him taking me under his wing, I learned a lot from him, and I'll never, stop appreciating the opportunity he gave me, because so many things in my life happened because of the opportunities he gave me. So when it came time for that, CrossFit they don't have a non-compete clause. I could have said, screw you, Aaron, I'm opening up a gym across the street. I'm going to take all your members, and there's nothing you can do. And businessmen would tell me to do that, but no way. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking that, your reputation speaks a lot for you. So when I started deciding that I wanted to go on my own and build my own brand, talking with Aaron, I said, look, you've kind of been phased out. He had been phased out for a while. He made it clear that he was taking, a less active role. And I said to him, I'm like, what are these members worth to you? Because I'm not going to steal them from you. Yeah. Everything you've done for me, I'm not morally going to steal them from you. And I don't want to leave them. I've spent, 3 years building relationships with these members, and I love them. Yeah. And I don't want to just go start something new a half hour away. So let's figure out a common ground. And we did. Gave me a little time to figure out the financial situations. Partnered up, and then we bought it from Matt and Aaron. Yeah. So essentially,
I mean,
we bought the members because we could have gotten the equipment cheaper. The building sucks. We just bought the members, and I couldn't do it immorally to Aaron.
I had the same thing go on with Matt when I bought Matt out, and Matt went up to Rhode Island to start working with Aaron again. Same thing. I mean, we were partners, and I literally could have, he wanted to not to have, be in this role of this facility anymore. And I literally could have just been like, all right, dude, we're just going to close New London CrossFit down, and I'll move across the street.
And legally you can.
Legally you can. That's the one bad thing I think CrossFit doesn't do is protect anyone. But, that's a different that conversation going forever. But, yeah, I mean, I think that respectable gym owners, it's a different entrepreneur. It's a different business person, I think, in this industry. I mean, yeah, there's some ruthless ones, but to be honest with you, the good ones that they would care about, like I care about what people think about me more than I care about like anything else. Like my image to the members. I mean, what does that say about me if I did that? And the word would get out, and the members would look at me and just be like, "This guy's an asshole. How am I supposed to help other people if they think I'm just a piece of shit?" Yep. You know what I mean? I think that I really care about what the members think about me because they look up to me. That's important to me what the members think about me because I work really hard to create a positive image for them. I do these challenges and everything you see for them to be like, man, he's putting in the work. He's doing this stuff. I'm trying to inspire them. I mean, that would just that's why your members look at you, and that's why you have the facility and what you've grown over there. But you started competing in CrossFit.
So CrossFit began as a means to stay in shape for rugby. Rugby was my absolute focus. And then fitness became the living. So
Yeah.
now I'm making a living with fitness, and I'm playing very high level ball, the highest level ball, and
Yeah.
I mean, there's no money in rugby. It's like saying you play the highest level of field hockey. Like field hockey is an Olympic sport, but nobody's getting a paycheck on it. So
It's like
I was-
the highest level of CrossFit.
that's it.
So you went.
Oh,
from
there's
one-
more money in CrossFit than there is in rugby. So I was playing. I was traveling my ass off trying to do CrossFit to stay in shape with rugby. And then I had a series of like unfortunate circumstances in the fall of 4 years ago, fall 2013, something like that. I ended up having a little tumor in my face, which had to get removed, which wasn't a huge deal. That was a couple of weeks, but it was a really deep. It was like
Yeah.
piece of my face removed, so I couldn't play ball for a couple of weeks. And then I went back to practice, and some schmuck, we were going like half speed, speared me in the face and broke my nose, which I wasn't out for too long. It was only like I think 2 weeks until I was going to play again. It wasn't a big deal. And then I ended up having a scrape on my elbow from turf, and I got MRSA. And that, like, literally those 3 incidents happened, and my whole season just washed away. And it was terrible. Like, I just look at all 3 of those individual circumstances. I'm like, how did they happen one after the other?
Because everything happens in threes.
But so that happened, and in that winter, I had never really competed, never really done any comps, but I did not the Northeast Invitational, that's my event. I did the East Coast Championship, the one at the Reggie Lewis Track Center, and that was my first exposure to these amazing athletes. That was when I was one of the better guys at Ocean State, but going there and seeing the talent firsthand. They're the guys I watch in YouTube videos. They're the guys I look at as like immortal, animals, and there they are. All right,
And you're right with them.
Yeah, that gave me like a hunger that winter, and I went into that winter still thinking I was going to play ball in the spring. And that winter I started training really hard, started doing some competitions, local ones, and started winning some. And I'm like, this is really fun. And then I met my now wife Ashley, and we started training together. Those, instead of the 2 hours a day to stay in shape for rugby, now it was 3, 4, 5 hours a day to try and be the best CrossFitters we could be. And I decided to hang up the rugby cleats for a season and see how far we could get in CrossFit, and just build out the kind of competitive drive, because nobody had capped out yet. Everybody was just riding, the train of just gains after gains after gains. Ashley was getting better every day. I was getting better every day. So I was like, all right, I've gone pretty far in rugby. This is my future here. Rugby's not paying the bills. I love it, but CrossFit's paying my bills, at least right now. Let's see how far we can get. So that's kind of how I transitioned from rugby
To CrossFit.
into CrossFit. Yeah.
Nice. And then your wife made it as an individual, correct?
Yeah. So the first year, the winter I'm talking about that we didn't, that I stopped playing rugby, that we didn't. That was my.
Did you made it to regionals once, right?
Not as an
Not
individual. So I finished 121st that year. She finished in somewhere around the 100, maybe 200. Either way. And then the next year, that's when we built the team and started practicing. That's when we made it our first year to regionals. We did that. We finished 9th. Then the following year, so that was 2015. 2016, Ashley qualified individual, waived it. We went to regionals again. We placed 11th. And then 2017, Alex and Taylor qualified individual, waived them, and we went and then made it to the games, obviously.
Yeah. So what is it like now? What's it for you? I mean, you're on the team, you're their coach, you're running a gym, you're coaching members, you're writing a program, do you still do the band program?
Okay, so yes and no. It's not that I don't, it's not that I do, it's just that
It's pretty
I try to keep things new for the members. So like my programming, even though it's the same WODs, so to speak, as whether they go with the band system or I go with percentages or I go with levels, I just make it a little bit different on their eyes, so they're thinking differently.
Yeah,
as opposed to the same thing all the time.
That's the hardest thing. I mean, with these facilities now, and the good ones have these amazing programs programmed for everybody, but individually.
Yeah.
That I guess that's like I talked with Jay Layden last time about this. That's one of the hardest things you have to do here, and to be good at this is create the program for a community, but also it be
able
for
to-
every individual person
Yeah, I watched that. That was good stuff.
to be able to be, exceed and be successful with what their own personal goals are, because everybody's different. Everybody's nutrition is different. Everybody's bodies react to workouts and everything different. So you have to find the right way to get each program, which is built for everybody, for a community, but be able to be specific for everybody. It's crazy. I mean, it's a lot. Like, people think there's just program. I hear people go, "Oh, the program's just up on the board." Like, they don't realize like how much goes into it. Making sure the body is able to recover. Like, when I started putting the active recovery workout in on Thursday, so we do only mobility and active recovery. People were working themselves to the point where they're getting tired and they weren't being successful anymore with their results. And I was like, listen, as I'm starting to study these people, I'm realizing you're just overworking too much.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that we do every day. You're putting your body through a lot, and you're not an athlete that is eating exactly like an athlete to recover like an athlete. So I'm going to force recovery on you. Once we started forcing recovery on people, and they become into mobility and doing these active recovery workouts on Thursdays, tell you what, I think my program for what we're doing in here has been very successful since I just added that little touch in. But that was literally, I fucking had to study that for almost a year and pay attention to why people weren't seeing the results anymore, because their bodies were breaking down too much. So, I mean, little things like that. And it's important to pay attention to that stuff.
There's always the balancing act of competitive CrossFit, how hard you can push and keep the injuries at bay.
The injuries are going to be there. I don't care. I mean, every sport I've ever played, I played hockey, football, baseball. I've gotten injured in every single one of them because I pushed the boundaries way beyond what, my mind thought I could, because I knew I could just keep going through. I knew the body would keep working. And once you do that, once your mind, injuries, pain is a mechanism in your body to tell you to slow down. A lot of people can kind of push that aside and just keep working through it. And that's when I see a lot of people get injured. And you know what? I tell everybody when they say they want to do CrossFit, I say get CrossFit competitively. Be prepared that the risk of injury is going to go up by about 90%. And you know what? You have to be willing to understand that you might hurt your back for the rest of your life. Just like, and people look at me like, why would you say that? I'm like, the same way, these guys in football understand that when they get hit in the head repeatedly, they're going to have problems talking later on in life. And if you want to be great at a sport, and I don't care, I'll debate this any day with anybody, you are risking injury. And you know what? That's the risk you take to be great at what you're doing. And again, I guess people look at me and say, I can't believe you say that, but I tell everybody, you're going to get injured. Be prepared. So have a plan B and have a way to make sure that you can recover and work through that injury. You just saw Alex kind of blow out his hamstring. He started trying to push the envelope again before it was early. And I said, Alex, like, there's a plan B, man. You have to understand that this is going to happen. You got lucky that you didn't get hurt so far. It's inevitable that you're going to get hurt. Every athlete I know out there has gotten an injury where they had to sit out. I was like, so now you have to figure out, your hamstring's hurt.
It also sucks when they get it like Alex got it. He didn't get it doing all the load he does. He got it on Thanksgiving playing backyard football.
But that's when you get injured, because you're not paying attention. That's how people hurt their backs. They don't even hurt it lifting. They hurt it picking up something the wrong way, because they don't brace themselves. When you've got load on your back and you're a good athlete, most of the time you tense up and you're protecting your spine. We talk neutral spine. Good athletes are protecting their spines, protecting their bodies from getting injured. And that's, I mean, it's always when someone's just fucking around. So
tying it all together. So I got introduced to Ocean State CrossFit and fell in love with the community. And that's why, I didn't go start my own gym. That's why I bought that community off of Aaron. One of my big philosophies is taking class and integrating with class. And to even have a shot at being on Ocean State's finest or to come to practice, you have to go to class. And that's just because without the community, I think the whole thing is nonsense. You can do it on your own. To call yourself a gym, and I really do not mean to insult anybody out there, but to call yourself a gym and a team from a gym, you should represent that gym. If you're just a lone athlete that works out in the back corner of a gym, isolated, doing a program that nobody else in the gym is doing, working out alone, probably in off hours, but then you put on that shirt when you go to competition, I don't really think that that's accurate. So our athletes all have to take class to even have a shot then on, which makes the programming only doable because of the culture that we have at Ocean State and the coaches that we have. So the culture what I'm going to talk about may not work for everybody. That's going to depend on your membership and on the kind of people you have there. But at Ocean State, we have a pretty savage atmosphere there. So when they see, a competitor next to them doing snatches with, 2 1/4 and ring muscle ups, they don't look at that with gym intimidation. They look at that with, aspiration. They look at that with excitement.
I think that the member that's doing the higher level athlete, I think the important part about that is getting the member excited about them doing that and wanting to achieve those goals as well. I think the veterans, like, the athletes, I think what makes that, like you said, gym intimidation, you're going to see that when people are just kind of off on their own, not interacting with the members, just doing their own thing. But like you said, when you integrate that into the facility, but it's up to the member to make the athlete to make the member understand, like, and feel comfortable about that. Again, I think that I don't know. We don't really have a strong competitor. I mean, my 2 competitors left. They're at your gym. They're with your team. So, we don't have a strong competitor base. Everybody kind of works out with class.
Whether competitive or not. So what I say when I mean all that is I take what training people like my teammates, what kind of training we need to do to be the best athletes we can be. And that's, I'm not even using CrossFit terms. What kind of training we need to be able to run the fastest, to be able to lift the heaviest, to be able to do the most amount of gymnastics, to have the greatest work capacity. What kind of training is needed at that? What movement variations are needed there? What frequencies are needed there? What time and task domains are needed there? So the way my programming works is I'll take like a month. It's usually about a month. Or sometimes I'll take it in like 10 blocks out. One way or another, I'll cycle themes. So I'll look at a month, and I'll write in throughout the course of the week what themes, the frequency of squats versus presses versus shoulder to overhead versus snatches. Once the themes are in, then I'll start layering in the amount of time, the amount of task priority. Do we get enough 8-minute workouts in? Do we get enough 30-minute workouts in? Then whether it's chippers or whether it's short sets, and then obviously the movement checklist. Well, did a week go by without handstand push-ups? Did a week go by without double unders? How many variations of jumping did we do? How many where was the red line workouts versus the CP battery workouts? And I look at how that stuff is needed for the highest level. And then we take those stimulus, whatever it may be. So if it's a workout where it's expected to be 80% of a 1-rep map and an athlete is doing 10 reps with 1 rep every 50 seconds, if that's the pace that's intended for, Alex and Taylor and Ashley, then I make sure if you're brand new and you've got a 100-pound back squat, that I can find a way to get you that same stimulus and everybody in between. Yeah. So instead of saying, oh, you don't have muscle ups, this workout's not for you. If you don't have muscle ups, let's get bar muscle ups. If you don't have those, let's get chest to bar. If you don't have those, let's get pull-ups. You don't have that, let's get ring rows. You don't have that, or you have that, we'll meet somewhere halfway and figure out your banded pull-up. So that everybody, once they walk in the door at Ocean State, they see the highest level athletes, and there is a roadmap to get them there. That's what the band system was, whether or not I use that all the time. So it's like, all right, Ashley's using 155-pound bar on the snatch and doing ring muscle-ups. Jane's using 135-pound and doing chest to bar. Jill's using 95 and doing pull-ups. And I know people talk about modification, and I know everybody says that it can be inclusive and things like that, but I still see most gyms have competitors do their own thing. So I don't understand if there's a lack of trying on the scalability side, if there's a lack of effort on the coach's side, when it is difficult when you have a room of 20 people, 5 are new, 10 are pretty experienced, and 5 are incredible. Where does your attention go when those 5 people come up to you and say, I don't know how to do a pull-up. What's a ring row? That's where staff quality makes it possible. That's where the culture makes it possible. When those 10 people know that they used to be one of those 5, they see them looking around like, oh God, what to do? You've got, in any given class, if you got 20 people in class, you might have 10, 15 of them that have been doing CrossFit for 3, 4, 5 years. They'll help out. So, and then the support goes all the way up. So when we did make it to regionals a couple of years and in the games, and we go to do fundraising, all these people, they've seen Ashley since Ashley was new. They've seen me. Some of these members were at Ocean State before I got there. Start off new. So the fact that I got where I am, she got where she is, in class with them, not in the dungeon somewhere else doing something else. It really brings it together for family.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that programming style. I mean, that's not my style, but I do like that. That's a good style. I mean, everybody has their own programming setup, but I mean, I think community with CrossFit is the reason why CrossFit's still CrossFit. I think everything else is just irrelevant at that point. I think CrossFit is so successful and became so successful is because of the community, and I don't think people pay attention to that enough. I see it in a lot of gyms. I see a lot of separation. And I think that's the worst thing. That's the demise of a CrossFit facility is the separation. I don't think there's enough community aspect in it. But I mean, I respect your journey. I've known you for a couple years now. And like I said, once Alex and Taylor made the jump to go over to your team, I started paying attention to more about what you were doing. And from where you started to where you're at now is, I mean, it's phenomenal. You haven't changed your system with your members since you started. So you had this goal of working with people and developing athletes and developing individuals. And I love the system that you use to do that. I loved your banded system when you were doing it. Like you said, it's still the same, where an athlete can be at the highest level and just walking through the door and they can see the steps that they need to take to get to that level. I think I know a lot of CrossFits that do levels like that. I think the scalability part of CrossFit had to be taken out of in the members' hands or the coach's hands. There's too many people in classes now. That's why I have a three level system as well. You have a multi-level system, but you need to have that already, find that scalability for each. People are going to fit into these categories. If you're not going to be able to do a muscle up, okay, you got pull-ups. If you can't do a chest to bar pull-up, you got to go to pull-ups. If you can't do a pull-up, you got to go to, a banded pull-up, which I still go back and forth with ring rows. If you can't do that, you got to go to a ring row. There's development. People don't understand you have to develop somebody the right way. It's like anything else. I mean, the development process of an individual is just as important as the end product.
Oh, absolutely. If they have the poor foundation,
and
it's always tough because there's this balancing act between how much you can clip wings and how much they'll still have fun and come back. And I know people can say whatever they want to say, but at the end of the day, you have to have members to keep the lights on.
Absolutely.
So if I took everybody that couldn't do a strict pull-up and I said, all right, you can't kip anymore, no more practicing kipping until you get your strict pull-up. How many people will get frustrated and maybe not come back, things like that. And again, that is culture. If you have confidence in how you deliver your rationale, people usually don't fight it. But the progression, the slow progression to get there, that is something that it takes a while. And you always see the new people come in, especially with those, like, you get a new athlete, a college athlete comes in, has those gains for the first month. They expect him to ride all the way out. At this rate, I'll be at regionals next year.
When I sit down with anyone in my gym, I always say, understand this. It is a slow process. Whether you're trying to lose weight or whether you're trying to be a great athlete or you're just trying to make some little gains here and there, this is a slow process. This is a lifelong process. So you better start fucking enjoying the process. Because if you want to be successful and healthy for the rest of your life, it's a lifelong process. So if you maybe make 5 steps forward and take a step back, don't worry about it. Just put your head down and keep moving forward again. That's one of the biggest talks I have with everybody in this gym. I mean, I've had people who lost 75, 80 pounds in this gym come to me and be like, I'm just not, I gained 10 pounds. I'm like, you gained 10 pounds, but you're still down in a net of like 65, 70 pounds. Like, what do you mean you're struggling? You want to move on to a different facility? Like, it just doesn't, you know what I mean? So I always say you have to understand, the process is the rest of your life. If you don't want to drop dead of a heart attack, I'm not going to say that you're not guaranteed to it, but if you want to be healthy and be active for the rest of your life, you have to enjoy the process, trusting the process, believing in your philosophies and what you're going to do. And I think what a lot of coaches do and a lot of owners do, if they don't see, even members, they don't see results quickly, they start to change. And if you believe in what you're doing and you trust that process and just keep moving forward and focus on, little steps at a time, shorter goals, smaller goals, and what you're going to, you believe in what you're doing, you will have what you had. Success to the ultimate. You made it to the CrossFit Games. So if you guys can take anything away from that, believe in your process and trust your process.
I think you actually said one thing that was how I was going to close. So the little goals. A lot of times people have the wrong goals. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to go to the CrossFit Games. I want to go to regionals. I want to put 50 pounds on my squat. If you set goals that are too high and you don't see any results in
You
a
need
month,
satisfaction.
2 months, it's not going to happen. Everything I've ever done has been, like you just said, one little step at a time. I didn't know I would go to the games in 2017, back in 2015. All we were worried about in 2015 was let's make it to regionals. Let's be the first team from Rhode Island to ever make it, you know? And even last year, just because Taylor and Alex weren't sure exactly what was going to happen when the reality of going individual was still there. And then when we pulled their scores, we would have still qualified for regionals with our number 4 male and female scores. So they could have both accepted their invitation, and then we would have still had a team. And the reason I'm saying that is because we didn't look at the big picture. Last year, step 1, prepare for the Open. Do everything we can to prepare for the Open. Step 2, execute in the Open. Step 3, what are we going to do with our qualifications? Okay, we're going to go. Let's prepare for regional. It's. I hear people talk about these goals. Oh, we're going to the games here. Or again, I want to lose 50 pounds. Don't worry about the big picture. Worry about a goal that you can actually accomplish this week. You can't lose 50 pounds this week, but you can eat clean for 7 days and maybe you lose 1 or 2 pounds. And you can't put 50 pounds on your back squat this week. This week, but maybe you can put 5 pounds, or maybe you can just do a mobility session and realize that you helped your body.
Yeah.
So the small goals are definitely the way that I keep myself going.
You have to. I call it the goal mountain. You have the goal at the top of the mountain, the ultimate goal. But every time you take that 1 inch closer to it, if you're not understanding that 1 inch closer is success to that ultimate goal, and you're just focusing all the time on that goal, you'll make 1 or 2 extra steps and you'll feel like a failure because it looks so far away. You can't look at the top of that goal. You can have it and you can always be in the back of your mind, but you can't focus on it. You have to set those smaller goals to get there, because every time you make that little jump and you set that smaller goal for yourself, that feeling of satisfaction makes you want more and make you go to that next little goal and then the next little goal, and then eventually you'll get there. So guys, thank you for watching this show today. I mean, I'm glad I got Ray up here. He's ready to work out. We got our athletes actually in the corner of our eyes kind of working out back here, and I see him itching. But Ray, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm hoping that you guys make it to the games again so I can go out there and cheer you guys on. I mean, I used to go out there before I knew anybody out there. Now I had a reason to go out this year, so I was pretty excited to see that. So hopefully we see Ray Fleeser and Ocean State CrossFit at the CrossFit Games again. Just, you know, I swear I know you guys can podium, and I had so much fun watching you guys. So Ray, thanks for talking to my viewers and giving them a little bit of information of your story and how you got to where you got.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Ray, thank you.
Thank you.